This is OSNG, Old School Next Generation. We're a dad and two sons who grew up in the woods and learned to hunt the old way. This show isn't about telling you how to hunt. It's about the stories, the screw-ups, the lessons you only learn the hard way, and the memories you don't want to lose. None of it exists without my dad. He taught us how to hunt, how to act, and when to shut up and pay attention. OSNG isn't a podcast. It's who we are. We're all freaks. And this is Old School Next Generation. Welcome back to OSNG. I'm Clark. I'm here with Jamie and with Jaden. And today we're talking about one of the most addictive parts of whitetail hunting. And it doesn't even include pulling a trigger or drawing a bow back. We're talking shed hunting today. For us, this time of year is about hope. It's about getting back out into the woods and seeing what survived, what didn't, what may be coming back next year, and even the occasional surprise, which we've had some. Nothing is quite like seeing those tines sticking out above the leaves or across the field. And today we're going to share how we got into shed hunting, some of the best finds that we've had, and what we're hoping to uncover. So settle in. Let's hit the woods together. It is shed season. We had to wait a little bit longer this year because of the winter storm that we had. We got about 14 inches of snow or so. And last year we were in the woods before the end of January. We were actually in the woods shed hunting the weekend after bow season ended. This year we didn't get out until mid-February. So I felt like we were kind of behind a little bit.
I was getting Snapchat memories of me finding antlers last year, and I couldn't do anything about it because I wasn't going to go and shovel snow out.
We were like 3 weeks in last year before we got to go out the first time this year, and you and I actually went out probably a little bit early. It was still, everything was snow covered, but we were able to find a couple that first time out, even in the snow, which was, to me, a little bit surprising. But it worked out a little bit. We're recording this a little bit later in the week this week because Jaden over here has been sick. It is flu season, and we didn't want to walk into his room where we record this until he was over it.
I got a little bit of a dry cough, so you're going to have to bear with me on this episode.
Make sure that you lean away from the table specifically and the microphone.
That's what I'm doing. Yeah.
All right, so we have not really been into shed hunting that long. I tried a few times, found a couple by chance, but really we're in, our fourth season that we really have kind of hit it hard, so it's still fairly new to us. I used to go out... And it was really more of an excuse just to get into the woods on a nice March day and get some fresh air, walk a little bit, and maybe find one. And I did find one that way would have been 2019. I found one side of the Freak. And that was the first really good shed that I ever, no, that's not true, that I found on purpose, put it that way, that I was actually shed hunting for.
And we didn't know he was the Freak.
Right.
At that
point. We just knew he was a good 11 pointer.
Yeah, we'd seen him, but we didn't know that he would turn into that.
Yeah. And I ended up finding that just laying there in the woods, just within 20 yards of where I ended up shooting him that fall. And that was the first good shed that I found on purpose. But I think I used to I waited too late into the year. I would go in March on a nice day and things were already greening up. I'd have to watch out for snakes, not cool. But we go a lot earlier than that now. The first shed that I ever found, we actually have the same side of this one that we call the Phantom. It dropped, one dropped in the driveway of the house that you live in now, and the other one dropped right in the field within 20 yards of it from the year before. But we weren't trying to find those then. And it was really, you want to grab one of those?
Yeah, why not?
I used those for rattling antlers.
Where's the other one, Jaden?
Bong. Yeah. I used these for rattling antlers for a few years, and with those eye guards, it was not a real good set of rattling antlers that you can see there. But yeah, they got left
the year after.
The year after I killed him, yeah.
No. You said you found 2.
This was the first one. This was the second one, and then the third year is him on the wall.
Is that the side that he had when you shot him in the ear?
Yes. Thanks for bringing that up.
I like to throw, shade when I can.
All right, so since you brought it up and we talked, oh my gosh. I don't know what to do with them.
I find sheds too big to handle. What a guy!
I'd love to find a shed like that in my driveway.
The year before, which would have been the side, the more intact side that we just showed you, my dad and I, this deer lived right on the area where he lived, and I actually shot at that deer when he was a half rack, and I drew blood. He was moving through the woods. I was on the ground. We had done a drive, and we kind of flushed him down this drainage. And he came through, and I shot at him, drew blood. We tracked him for a couple hundred yards, and it was not much blood. It was just a drop here and there. And that was that. And then the next year, I kill him, and he's at the taxidermist, and I go to pick him up, and the taxidermist says, this deer's been shot? I said, no, what do you mean? And he sticks his pinky through his ear. He goes, yeah, this deer's been shot with a 20 gauge slug through his ear. So he's got a pierced ear on the right side that I put in him the year before I killed him.
Man, you were really close to putting a fatal shot on him.
Oh yeah, about that far. He lost everything.
Right, his thinker.
Well, and it's a good thing that I didn't.
Yeah.
Because he only had one side. And that was that was 2003. We weren't trophy hunting or running trail cameras or it was just it was a good buck shooting. And then the next year he blew up into 190 inch non-typical. And it's a good thing I didn't kill him when he was a 65 inch, half rack. So that was really the first sheds that I found. And then this one was the first that I found on purpose. And then we kind of got into it a year or so later, and it was really you that had the most interest right off.
Yeah, I wanted something to do with my spring, and I started I always knew about shed hunting because we've been hunting for so long, but I was
glad he clarified that. I wasn't sure where it was going.
All right.
Sounded like something else.
Oh, I was I love being in the woods. Mm-hmm. I like to go find things, and I was I'll give it a go. And and it was at 23, I think, is when I really first started getting into it.
Well, we tried other things. We tried coyote hunting.
Yeah.
We tried turkey hunting,
and we were bad at both of them.
Well, the best part of turkey hunting was seeing the deer.
The deer. Yes.
I wish I could get tags. I was too late this year again, but I went and walked. But it was by one of the properties around where you live now, and it's not nearly as big as the ones that he's found, but this is the one that started the addiction.
Oh, that was your first one? Okay.
Yep. This is the one that started the addiction, and ever since then, what do you think I probably put over there in my room? Upwards of 50?
Oh, yeah.
Every bit.
Yeah, you find more than you walk more than the rest of us.
Well, for the last couple of years, I've tracked my miles. I didn't start it this year. I really don't care anymore about the miles or whatever, but the last couple of springs I put in 150 miles.
Miles for piles.
Yeah, and I find the 2-year-olds and the 3-year-olds, and then whenever they go out,
or the yearlings.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. And that to me is more impressive to find the little ones than it is the big ones. The big ones are easy to see.
Oh, yeah, but that's what I mean.
We want to find those.
That's what I mean.
It's not as hard to find as some of the ones you've found.
Well, I find all these 2- and 3-year-olds, and then they go out once every blue moon and they find the hammers, and I'm like, I put in 103 miles this year and I haven't found a hammer, and you guys have found 3 today.
Sounds like you need to switch up what you're doing.
Well, we'll get to that too. That's a sore spot. You jumped into it before we did. You did some public land, and then we started going with you really the next year, and we hit Pyramid State Park over in Perry County, and we found some pretty good ones over there. We had a couple of other properties, and one thing that I like, and we've had this in a couple of situations, is even if you're not able to hunt the property, lots of times property owners are okay with you shed hunting it.
Yeah.
And I like that too, because one, you're looking at a new terrain, and two, if you're not hunting that area, those are all surprises.
Yeah.
You just don't have any idea what's there.
Well, we found a matching set the first time we ever walked the woods, and that was so much fun.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of different things that we found in there that you were able to see throughout the year, some of these deer, and it was it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I watched some bucks in that cornfield right there all year long, and I'm like, man, I want to get a hold of those things, and we found a couple of them. But the funniest thing about shed hunting is when you knock on a door to try to find just land to walk, sometimes you got to explain what shed hunting is.
Yeah,
they're like, shed hunting?
It's becoming more popular.
Yeah. Well, some of them don't even know what it is. I've had to explain what happens at that time of year. Bucks lose their antlers, and I like to go find them. They're like, you just go walk and find it? I go, yeah.
Well, and my wife, up until a few years ago, didn't even know they dropped them.
Right. And I've had that discussion with some people at work. They're like, they grow those back every year.
I've had to explain that. I'm like, yeah, every year they lose these antlers, and they just fall off, and you go and look for them.
And one of the things, and I know that we talked about this last weekend when we were walking, one of the great things about shed hunting is it is something that you can do as a group. It is something that you can do as a family. Even if you don't necessarily want to go deer hunting, you can go shed hunting. I didn't tell you this. I think I was with Jamie, or maybe vice versa. I don't remember. It all blurs together when you're as old as I am. But your mom was like, I think that sounds like it would be fun. I think it'd be fun to go out and walk in the spring and look. And now there are places that, we would go that she wouldn't, and briar patches and thickets and that kind of thing. But through a regular woods or a field, that's something that, you could, and you have started taking Easton kind of this year, and we'll get to that again. But it's something that you can do with the whole family that, they may have no interest whatsoever in actually going and hunting, but it's a good time that you can spend together outside.
Finding a 75-degree day and
oh my
March,
goodness, yeah,
and just walking.
Yeah.
There you
go. Well, even
last week.
Yeah, last weekend was very well. You and I did 6 miles in the rain on Saturday. That wasn't so nice. Now Sunday was very nice when we went out.
Yeah.
But you're the one that kind of got us into it, and now we're in our 4th season, and this was, I think, the first year that I felt like this. And you and I hunted until the last weekend of bow season.
Yeah.
But around the first week of January, I got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm ready to shed hunt now. Before hunting season was done, and
there was still unfinished business. There was, for me.
And we still had shots.
I was like, I'm not ready yet.
But I got to where I was like, all right, I'm ready to get out and to walk and to see what we can find. And it is absolutely addictive. It is. I mean, we don't really compete when we go out, but we kind of keep track.
I mean, I hold grudges because you guys find the big ones,
I like to compete.
But I mean, yeah, like you and I win. I think I found the first one that first day, but you found 3 or 4 that day. Yeah. And then the next time I think I found 1 and you found like 5. It's just the way it goes. But that's what I mean. You seem to find them better than I do, and I don't know, necessarily why that is.
But closer to the ground.
Not really, no.
I'm a 1/4 inch taller than him, so theoretically,
when you're 5'8", every 1/4 inch counts.
5'8's crazy.
5'7 3/4.
There you go. Thank you. I've got to clarify.
But it is absolutely addictive, and it allows you. Again, I started doing it just to get into the woods again because I love being out in the woods. I am a bit of an introvert, so my time in the woods is something that I really enjoy, being by myself, and that's kind of how we got started. But then when you start having some success and you start finding some, that's when that addiction comes in, and it's like, I'm ready to go. We had to argue with you today because when we said, hey, we're going to record the podcast, you're like, I want to walk. Dude, you've had influenza A all week long. You don't need to be in the woods when it's 35 degrees today.
I want to get out of the house.
I'm going stir crazy. I need to get out. Jaden, you need to rest. And I mean, it is. I can't wait. I mean, I do SIU baseball in the spring. Next weekend, we've got home games. And I'm like,
It's tough for you, bud.
it
Don't worry,
is
I'll drive
because
the fields.
yeah, I'm sure you will. Because we got a later start this year, so I'm not probably going to get to shed hunt as much as I have in the past, and I'm going to miss that part of it. But we got into it. It is absolutely addictive. And as we have gotten more serious with what we do through the year and finding the deer and tracking them and learning about them and trying to figure out their personalities, man, you really want to find those deer that you've watched all year long on camera or out of the stand, but nothing compares to the first time you wrap your hands around that antler and you can really see what he truly is. And sometimes it's exactly what you thought. Sometimes they're bigger than you thought. Sometimes I thought he's a little bigger than that. Mm-hmm. And that is, I think that is really interesting. And that is the part that I think really helps us and people who do shed hunt and are, serious deer hunters. I think that helps you when you come time to hunt the next year.
Well, I mean, like, I started just looking for antlers, just finding whatever I could, but it's kind of turned into, okay, this guy survived. Mm-hmm. Like, it's more of that. Like, everyone has bucks on their camera that sometimes disappear late season because they patterns change, and we've had the same. And I kind of go out now and I'm like hoping to find certain bucks because I want to know if they're alive or not.
Yeah.
And you get information on where they like to be in late season and stuff like that. It's kind of turned into more informational stuff, but I still enjoy walking, obviously. Right. But it went from just finding things to, okay, how do I use this to better myself next season?
Absolutely.
Well, and like that first year that we all really got into it, we talked about walking that property and finding all the cool things. Well, we got to walk, a new property that we had permission to hunt on, and we didn't know it. Mm-hmm. Didn't know a single thing about it. It was just a big swath of land, a lot of fields, and we took a gamble and walked, this thick mound, and I find Vader. And as we're walking out, there's deer in the field, a couple 100 yards away, and there's one really nice buck out there with one side, and we're like, I bet that's who it is. And I watched him come off that mound the next fall. Got within 60 yards of him.
Right by where you found the shed, right?
Straight across in the fence row. And then you killed him 50 yards away from where we were watching him in the field. So that ended up being a big deal, knowing where, okay, the shed was dropped here and we're pretty sure he was out in the field at this point off the thicket. It became a huge part of our play to get that deer.
Well, and one of the most challenging things, especially about mature bucks, is they change their patterns. They have set patterns, but as the year progresses, they change those things. And, where we saw him late season, postseason the year before, we found that one shed gave us a pretty good idea of kind of where his core was, where his bedding area was. And then through that fall, we were able to kind of get an idea of how those travel, patterns were changing. We're able to finally catch up with him. What I like, and you talked about this just a second ago, is there is no better time to scout for the next year than postseason.
Yes.
Because it's as barren in the woods as it gets. There is not the underbrush. There's not, the canopy. You can see where the trails are, where the rubs are, where the snow is on, where the bedding areas truly are. I mean, we have an idea. Sometimes you can see the leaf impressions where they've laid, but when there's snow on, you can count the beds as you walk through the woods. You get a whole lot of intelligence and information when you walk those trails postseason, because like right now we had that snowstorm. And when the snow was on, when we went the first time, there were some trails that looked like cow pastures, where they had taken it down to the dirt and it was starting to thaw. And I mean, it was all muddy, and you knew this trail was one of the main trails in this area. Well, you file that away, and then come next fall, you remember it went from here to here. That's my travel corridor in that area.
Well, and there's no pressure. Like, we are very meticulous throughout the season as to when we check cameras, when we, replace batteries, make sure that wind's right. We weren't in there too much during the weekend. And at this point, we're fine. We walk in once a week.
Well,
we're not going to overpressure it. We're not going to do anything stupid, but just to go in and walk the woods, once every 2 weeks.
Well, so I was going to go off what he was saying was like during the season, our access is most important. We want to be in the woods and making little to no noise or whatever as possible.
And have, as protected of an entry and exit as you can.
So like we go, point A is straight to the stand, point B is right back to the truck as much as we can possibly be. So we're not covering the woods during the season. We're going to the stand, coming back out. And now in shed season, you walk the whole thing. And there's
go some places I wouldn't dare go during the season.
And you find information, rub lines, scrapes, stuff like that you wouldn't see throughout the season because you don't just walk.
Well, and you're not going to, the fear of pushing something.
Yeah.
You have an idea, and then you make a plan based on that idea, and then it's almost like we do the reverse scientific method afterwards. Okay, this is what we thought. Let's go walk this, and then
let's go into that area that we think is the core and find out for sure.
And sometimes we're wrong.
But you learn a lot. And I think, you were talking about we try to stay out. I think that we do that to maybe our detriment even a little bit. And that's where this old school next generation kind of blends together.
It's Leroy theology.
No, it's the exact opposite of Leroy theology, because there were many times where, Dad and I would hunt the morning and we would get down and we would walk the woods.
Oh, see, he never did that with me.
Well, that was before trail cameras and all those things. So, now we don't want to pressure the bucks, the mature deer, where they move off of the property, but we also don't necessarily have the concrete intelligence to know exactly where they are like we did before, because we would find rub lines and scrapes and that kind of thing. We don't do that as much as we used to before trail cameras. And I think that there's a delicate balance there, because we don't want to run the mature deer out or pressure them. But I don't know that we have quite as much information during the season as we've had in the past.
Well, here's, I think, a fair question. Are you doing more with less?
Which is the right way? I mean, and that's, I don't know.
Because we've talked about this before. We've been more successful in the last 10 years than you were any time before that.
That may be why.
So like, are we losing less intel because you were able to find it, or did you guys, no offense at all,
move deer out?
Did you move them out? Did you ruin spots?
Yeah. It's
just
a good question.
By ignorance.
It's a good question. But I will say this. I think that, and along the same line, and this is something that I've thought a lot about, I think, and we run a good amount of cell cameras. I think we can over rely on those, because we can have 5 or 6 cameras in a property and go, well, that buck hasn't come back. But we don't really know that.
No, we learned that about a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, you just, even if you have a half dozen or a dozen cameras on a property, you're still only seeing what that camera can see and what that range is on that motion sensor. And that is just a fraction of that property.
Which is why we get in the truck.
But you can't see everything from the road
there either. But we expand, what we can,
But I mean, to say that, well, this buck hasn't been on this property, we don't know that. He's just not been in front of that camera or those cameras. And I still think that we kind of maybe over rely on that. But again, where's that balance? Do you walk the property and maybe push that mature deer off, or do you stay hands off and rely on your cameras?
Hands off.
And maybe he's there and you don't know it.
I'll roll the dice.
Well, and like you said, we've had more success that way. So that seems like maybe that would.
I don't want to find out the hard way, and that's just the way it rolls. I don't want to bump him out knowing he was there.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather be sleepless at night wondering if he is there, and he is.
Which goes back to I said we didn't get into the woods this year to shed hunt as early as we have in the past, but also there were certain properties that we didn't want to go in right away because we didn't want to push them out onto other properties that we don't have access to. We wanted them to drop on the properties that we are, able to get to. And that you just don't know, because you saw a good buck this morning with both sides of his antlers, and we're recording this on February 22nd. He's still holding both. We saw a good buck on camera this week.
Half rack. Yeah.
That was a half rack in an area that we.
I missed this. You made the comment.
It could be. I mean, it might be the ghost.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
maybe. He was long. What I was talking about is what we found last weekend.
Well, we'll get there.
No, I'm not. No, he didn't know what I was meaning.
Oh.
Like, we're going to get there, yeah, but I made that comment earlier when you said, like, our cameras don't always tell us everything.
Yeah.
And, we'll
because
I got what you're saying.
Yeah, because we found a matching set that we had never seen this year. Have no clue
and
of
had
this
cameras
year.
at two or three different spots in that area.
But I didn't know the ghost, or possibly
there's
the
a good half rack buck on one of our cameras within the last couple of days, and it's
if I had to guess, it would be Baby Drip or him.
Yeah, it was one of those.
They're long.
It's just hard for me to open up all of the camera notifications,
because right now most of them are coons or possums.
Yes, they're all.
And maybe the occasional armadillo.
We did have the pretty yote come back the other day.
The big one?
Yeah, the big fluffy one. Yeah, we hadn't seen him in a while. I pulled the video, but he was moving on. Yep. So that is, that's how the shed hunting can really move into the scouting that you can do for next season, and an understanding of exactly where they're bedding, where they're feeding, what those trails truly are. You can find rub lines and scrapes that maybe you weren't aware of during the season. You file all that away, and for next year, you've got an even better understanding of your property and where those deer are, where they're coming from, what their travel patterns are, what their feed sources are, and it makes you a better hunter for the next season. And I think that is probably more so than just laying your hands on the antlers, which is the fun part.
Yeah,
that's the more valuable part.
That's the reward, but there is way more that comes out of it that just isn't physical.
Now, the next question. When I would just go out and enjoy a spring walk in the woods, and I would look for antlers and I'd look for mushrooms because it was kind of the same time of year. I would happen across an occasional one. I didn't really have a strategy on this is where I want to go. This is where I want to look. So I want to kind of transition into where we have the most success in actually finding them, because I would have told you for many years, I don't have a clue. I don't know. We've got some friends who are really good at it. It's like, how do they always find dozens every year? We're starting to, kind of figure that out. So where do they drop?
Well, everywhere.
Literally. I mean, you could find them anywhere, but there are places that are more
concentrated
likely.
areas. Yeah.
But it's not like you want to just check the field. It's not like you just want to check the bedding areas. You've got to check quite literally everything, and that's where those miles come in. Now, there's spots that might be worth more of your time, and spots that, hey, we just want to glance over this, make sure that there's nothing in there. But the safe bet is to break it up into a couple of weeks and just check quite literally everything, and go to your worst spots last and your best spots first.
I'll tell you one thing that I have found, and was kind of surprised by this. I think a majority of the beds that you find in the snow and in the leaves are doe beds, because I'm not sure I've ever actually found a bed and looked around the bed and found a shed antler.
I found a couple.
It's usually, but you usually find the shed first.
Which is what we did last weekend, too.
Yeah.
Kind of, because since, I've gotten into it the last few years and the last couple of years, and the one thing that I know I love doing, I'd rather look in beds.
That's where they spend most of their time. That's where it makes more sense.
My go-to is to beds. If it's a bean field, I'll walk the edges and scan it as I go.
You should drive down the middle of it.
When it comes to a cornfield, I hardly even look. I'll scan a few rows, like parallel with the rows, and look down with the binoculars. I've never found a shed in the cornfield, which is frustrating because they're out there.
They're
late
there.
Season corn.
They're absolutely
it's out there. I just can't see them, and
I
it makes me mad.
they're there.
Yeah, and I just when I know about bedding and where they're at, I go there first.
Yeah.
That is where I go.
Well,
And it's the easiest for me, I guess.
And maybe what I should say is the obvious beds that you see aren't where I have found sheds. Now, the quote bedding areas that we know of, the thickets, the briar patches, I mean those places that my legs look like I got in a fight with a bobcat.
Oh, I've healed up now since I haven't been in.
You and I were just
up.
torn apart.
Yeah.
But that's where you find a lot of sheds. That one area, and we're going to have to hit that again because we found 2 sheds in that one specific spot. That last year you found like 6 in one day.
I was gonna bring that up was, like I said earlier, I find all these little dinks and then you find the big ones. I found probably 6, maybe more sheds that day, and it was a bunch of 2 or 3 year olds, and he found the one we were looking for.
I walked right up on the one that we were there looking,
and
for.
I was
And
just
where
like,
was it?
It was laying right in the bedding area.
Oh, it was the bedding area.
Yeah.
I thought the picture was more open.
It was on a trail through the bedding area. So
Gotcha.
it was on a trail that was less thick than, 2 yards on each side.
Gotcha.
Yeah. You couldn't move off of the trail, which is probably, that he was
makes
traveling
sense.
that. Yeah.
I'm finding these sheds and this thick stuff, Army crawling underneath to get to them and grabbing them for his 2-year-old shed, and then he's walking this open trail and he finds the one we're looking for.
Well, and last weekend in that rain that I talked about, we've got a pretty good idea of where the one that we're right now calling the Ghost, just because we had never seen him till late season, have a pretty good idea of where he is bedding. And we walked that pretty thoroughly, never found anything. But again, 2 days ago, we've seen
Something
one
was
on
holding.
camera that was holding one. And if he only has dropped one and it's out in this, 80-acre cornfield, good luck. You gotta walk right on them or just get the right angle looking down the corn rows. But field edges seem to be, field edges and I like cornfields are tough because they blend in so well.
Yes.
I like wheat fields. I like bean fields.
Makes it.
I like walking the edges and scanning the rest of the field with binoculars. You found a great one in the snow, and if you follow us on social media, you probably saw him giggling and running through the snow to find this antler. We call him Big Ugly. He is an old deer, heavy deer. Go ahead and show him. And you saw that from like 100 yards away, sticking up out of the snow.
That was the funny thing was I found an old shed. It wasn't from this year, earlier on that day, and we were walking this edge, and we haven't really shed hunted in the snow a whole lot. And my idea was I'm gonna chuck this thing out there in the field and watch it land so I can see what a shed might look like with the snow in the bean field. And I kind of take it from the side and I look this way, and I just see the G2 this bladed G2 up in the bean field, and then I stare at you and I stare back, and I didn't even know you were recording. I just thought you were holding it, and I told him, I'm like, dude, there's one out there. He was like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I promise.
He goes giggling
And
like a school kid across the snow.
I start giggling and running because seeing a G2 like that,
it's heavy. Yeah,
there's 2 bucks out there in that place that we hunted this year
that we were looking for.
That it had to have been one of them or some random good one. So I was like, this is a win. No matter who it is, it's a win. And that's how I found him. I was going to throw that old shed out there.
And you've done that a couple of times. You
do
did that
that
in the woods last weekend, and I'm like, what are you doing? Or was it you?
No,
it was
me.
you. Yeah,
I
it
do
was
that
you
a
that
lot.
threw it out, and I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I just threw it on the ground because I wanted to see what that antler looks like in this position.
If I have a shed in my hand and it's been a minute since I found one, I want to retrain my eyes, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna throw this antler out here and see what it looks like in this certain spot. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was gonna do. And luckily I laid eyes on that big G2 and it ended up being Big Ugly. So we still haven't found that other side, which this is luckily
the bigger
this
side.
is the more impressive side. The other side he broke off, but we still got that one to find too. So but yeah, it's kind of funny that I went to throw that one old shed out there and I saw that bladed G2s.
All right, so I said I like field edges bedding areas. I like to scan, the fields with the binoculars. And I found a couple that way. You like the bedding areas and the thick stuff.
Yeah.
So let's address the elephant in the room.
Jamie?
Where do you like to find them?
I like walking.
No, you don't.
Dude,
Listen,
do
no,
not
you don't.
lie.
I
Stop.
know. I do. I like
He's
walking.
putting on a
I
front
like
for all of you.
walking, but I don't very often.
I'd rather push the pedal down.
Something that has started is one day after school, it was just E and I and
Easton is your
7-year-old son.
Yep.
And my wife had our daughters at therapy in Heron. So I'm like, we're coming down the driveway. We've got a massive cornfield on each side of our driveway. And I'm like, let's go hop in the side-by-side. And he was like, why? And my wife goes, I got a feeling you're going to look for antlers. And I go, absolutely.
It was a beautiful day. Why not?
55
Yep.
degrees,
Yep.
sunny.
Yep.
It finally dried up. And E is 7. If you have a 7-year-old or have had a 7-year-old, you understand. And his attention span is not much. He wanted to hop into the side-by-side and go for a ride.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I took him down the hill through the woods, and buddy, he loved that till the briar caught his arm. And
No one likes it when a briar catches their arm.
Especially not when you're side by side moving 10 miles an hour.
yeah, so he's like, "What are we doing?" And I'm like, "We're looking for sheds." And he's like, "What's a shed?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, an antler. They drop off their heads." Really?
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, we're looking for them in the corn." And we went around the field edges, and I didn't see anything. And below the house, there's a big hill, which I had hunted on during shotgun season. When you killed Loki, I was at the base of that hill. And we went down the hill and hit the waterway. And the only deer I saw that weekend had crested the hill over the top so he could see both hollers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? We're going to turn around and go right back up the middle of the hill. That was where that buck traveled. There's multiple good trails leading on to the next property from the hilltop. Let's see what we can do. And I crest the hill and I can see it, and I slow down and I tell E, go get the antler. And if you, again, follow us on social media, he hops out and grabs a corn stalk.
The antler.
The antler.
I do the same thing, and I'm 22 years old. That's why I don't hardly look at cornfields.
Quote
That's it.
Easton.
Corn's hard, yeah.
To quote Easton James, he wanted a weapon to bonk the deer on the head with. That's why he wanted a corn stalk. So,
What do you think it was going to come over the hill after?
I have no idea. But
Good luck, EJ.
he finally sees it and he picks this up.
Way to organize them so you're ready.
Well, I got to find the one with the E on it.
Oh, yeah. You
So-
did mark it E1. Yeah.
Well, it's got E1 on the bottom, and if you turn it sideways, it makes
Yeah.
an E. That's
Yeah.
how because
Okay.
mine's is an 8.
yeah.
But he found this shed, is what he says.
He picked it up out of the field.
He picked it up out of the field, and he was hooked.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you spotted it. He picked it up, but
That's how you
he's
start
hooked.
that.
That's
yeah,
how
you start
you
that
get
addiction.
Yeah.
So he brings it back, and he's like, let's drive around some more. Which I'm like, okay, cool. And we start driving around, and I go down the middle of the field back to the east, and I saw, the pedicle. And I was like, there's no way that's an antler because it's about 100 yards off. And I just turn and go that way. And this one's in the fence line.
It's a long main beam.
It is.
Well, I know which one this is.
I didn't realize how long that main beam was.
This is
Looking
the
at the
8.
pictures, he couldn't realize.
This is the 8 that Kat sent us when we got our tattoos.
Oh,
That was in the cornfield. I watched him quite a bit.
Now
It's-
look at the length from that G3 out to the end.
He's probably a decent 3-year-old, which will be fun to watch around the house, over the next couple of years, maybe get a shot at. But it was laying just like this. It's still got some hair on it. I love it. And I had spotted that from about 100 yards off, went and grabbed it. And I just drove by, picked it up, threw it in the back of the side-by-side. He's like, what was that? And I go, that's my antler.
Dad got one.
So I told Kat, hey, he really likes this.
Yeah.
We drove over that field, didn't find anything else. And
Two out of one cornfield in one day is pretty good.
and they were about 150 yards.
And it's
apart.
not like he was walking a couple yards and scanning.
He's driving in the side by side. Yeah,
you know, which is why I couldn't believe that second shed was a shed.
I won't give him that much credit because he's riding in a side by side, but it is fairly impressive.
Especially,
Well, this next one's gonna make me mad.
so
this is where the issue began.
Like I don't care that you can go ride side by side in your
Behind your house.
cornfield
Yeah,
and
behind your
find
house.
sheds. This one makes me a little aggravated.
well,
We've got an issue.
so the next day, it's nice, and I told E we can go shed hunting again. I said I'll take you to a spot that
It was warmer that day.
Yes, it was like 65.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous on the side by side. And just to get him out, he loves riding it, and we haven't been able to. 'cause
Again, to get out and enjoy the beautiful day.
yes, and he has loved that thing since we got it. So I'm like, you know what? We'll go up and we'll go, shed hunt this property up north.
Shed hunt,
Well, we
shed
did.
drive.
No. So we get out there and we walk this block of woods that we had, been seeing the ghost in.
The block of wood's about a half acre.
Probably. Okay. Well,
Hey, that's where a lot of action
It's a
happened.
thick part of the fence row, okay?
Yeah.
but that
It's a little
was
bit thicker
plenty.
than a fence row. That's about it.
I don't care. They weren't there. I've never seen my child crash out more than trying to walk through the woods. The sticky trees won't leave me alone.
And it's wide open. It is not even thick.
He's
not.
got a lot to learn.
He found every briar in that patch. And at one point he goes, Dad, I'm stuck. And I turn around. And
I've been there.
He's straddling a briar. And I'm like, backwards. Go backwards. Go
Bad
backwards.
spot. Do not move forward.
I'm like, slowly back up. And I like grab it and pull it forward. And he's like, can we go back to the side by side? I'm like,
You're gonna turn.
yes,
You're gonna turn him
fine.
into a redneck blind hunter. Is what you're gonna turn. him
I
into.
mean, I was picking still briars out of my skin 3 days later. I'm like, what is that stick? Oh, that's one embedded.
What we do for some antlers, man.
yeah. Well, he's 7, but he loves it, and that's what matters.
That's a good start.
So I grew up on
He's the next
four-wheelers.
generation.
I grew up on 4-wheelers with Papa at the cattle farm and things like that. So getting him in there is a
Is
big
a
deal
win.
to
Yep.
me.
Yep.
So we leave the little block and we go out, and there's a gap separating the fields, and I turn into that gap and check the next field. And I'm like, cool. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And we pull up next to it, and E jumps out all excited and picks it up, and I take a picture of it, and this is what I find. And if you heard us last episode, this is Jonathan.
I don't think we mentioned Jonathan.
We didn't
in
mention
episode
Jonathan?
four. We did not.
Well, I
no.
think we mentioned him.
Okay.
I just don't know if we included him into pictures or
Into
something.
pictures.
into the
this,
podcast.
this is Jonathan.
And this is one of the deer that, we said
he was one
probably a hit lister.
he was one of the late season bucks. It was him or the ghost.
Yeah.
Well, we watched him all summer, and the reason we nicknamed him Jonathan, this may be the one of, at least, the biggest bodied deer I've ever hunted.
Well,
He is a freaking horse.
he looked like a rutted buck in January.
Well, but he was a shadow of what he was.
But that's what I'm saying.
Before the rut.
That's what I'm saying. He
Because
had
we weren't
rutted
even sure it
down.
was him when he
Yes.
came back.
He had rutted down.
Yeah.
But he still looked like a healthy rutted buck
Yeah.
because of how big he was prior. And do you care if I drop your government name?
Go ahead. That's
Well,
fine.
This
A
man's
government name.
this guy's name is John. He's a bigger boy, and in was probably July when we first got a picture of him.
Yeah.
He was a freaking tank. He had a huge
He
body.
was thick with 3 C's.
You've
Huge
got
body.
to include the meme here. The meme that we've sent for a couple of years.
We'll put it up so
Yeah.
that you see. Who
This-
has that as my picture
Me.
on my contact?
There,
Yeah.
I came across this picture on Facebook, and it was just this absolute fatty of a buck. I mean, like his neck was this wide, his head was so small compared to his neck. It was
His
hilarious.
neck
looking.
is his shoulders and his
Yeah.
body look like they were this
It's just,
thick.
just an absolute fat buck. And I sent it in our group chat, and I go, Dad, if you're a buck, this would be you.
Jonathan.
And we got a
Ava Lou wants in.
yeah. And so can you quit?
Go away.
That's our cat that chewed up Dad's.
Yeah, that's
It's the reason for my second pair of headphones.
And so I was like, I'm gonna make his contact picture this, and I'm gonna, instead of John, it's gonna be Jonathan. And that's how that started. And anytime I got his attention, I'd be like, hey, Jonathan. And he'd be like, huh? What? And I'd send that picture of the fat deer just to make fun of him, you know? And by the summer,
And we get this buck.
this
It's like-
buck comes in, and I mean, he is freaking huge. Like,
He's not
just
as big as the
fat.
one in the meme, but
No.
it's the big. I mean,
No,
he's
but
thick.
He rivaled the freak.
Well, and I mean, he was, we had him on camera with some other mature bucks when they were in bachelor groups, and he like
just dwarfed them.
dwarfed them.
like
Yes.
just the biggest body deer we've ever had in our lives. And I'm like, boom, that's Jonathan, because he's a fatty.
All right, let's bring it back. So,
While you-
Jamie and Easton.
While you bring it back, I'm gonna go put her up.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So, but I want you to come back quickly because you need to be in this part. Okay. So Jamie and Easton decide that they're going to go on a side-by-side ride on a 65-degree sunny afternoon after school, and they find Jonathan's shed out in the middle of a bean field on the property that we hunt, which is all fine and dandy. Except where the issue comes is Jaden and I were going in there on foot the next day.
There was a sound reason as to why I did this. Because we know...
Yeah, it's called blocking.
I got you. But we know that there's people up there that drive the fields, and they have permission to drive the fields,
Right.
and that's how they shed hunt. And I would have hated if this was sitting out, because this is how I found it laying.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it from a long way away.
That one literally was 150 yards up the hill, and I could see the G2 in the silhouette. If we lose that shed,
We're aggravated. But I'm just saying, it's not that we were bitter that you found it
You just
an
happened to
hour
find
and a
it.
half before dark when we were going in there the next morning.
You just happened to find it
Off
on
the-
a side by side.
Off the side by side, we walked 6 miles in the rain and didn't find one like that.
well, sucks to suck. Buy your own side-by-side. Right, Jade?
Yep. I don't want one. Don't need it.
I understand
Two
the
different
frustration.
philosophies at work here. He likes to cover miles sitting down with a rain and
a beer.
music in the side by side. And
No, we turn the music off.
oh well,
I won't
you're
let
roughing it, are you?
I won't let E play the music, but
Well, that's just because it's taste in music, not because you don't want to listen to it.
that's partially true. But again, I knew with it being as nice of a day that there could be more people out.
Yeah.
And that's a valid. That's a valid reason.
taking E, I can't walk 6 miles.
But I will tell you this.
You could have at least. I mean, you would have found that. You would have found that shed just walking the fields, though.
Well, but I had to have gotten there with E.
When you sent that, it's like, oh, that's a really good one. Great for you. Good job, E. Where are you? And you said where you were. And my reaction was, are you freaking kidding me?
Well, hey,
Will you quit hitting your mic?
I didn't hit the mic.
It was just
He
shaking.
just moved the table. Yeah, I was like, are you freaking kidding me? We were going there tomorrow. We would have found that shed off the ground, but
Like
you
some
ride
real-
your
like
side
some-
like some real shed
hunters.
hunters.
Oh, Lord. Hey,
Taking the easy way out.
works, doesn't it? Hey, there's too many people that ride the fields that are not us, and you've got to take advantage of. It was a culmination of things. It was not me by myself. I would feel bad if it was me
now
by myself.
he's using the 7-year-old as
I absolutely am, because I wouldn't have been up there had he not wanted to shed hunt. And that was a thing was, hey, if one of these dudes are off the road, we need to grab them before someone else sees them.
That's not off the road.
You could not have seen it. Okay, but this same field that you found that in, last year we did have this gentleman who has permission to ride. He's an older gentleman, ride this 4-wheeler
Didn't know
around
at the
field.
time, so it was a
Right.
little sketchy.
I was like, who is that?
He looks straight
He's
at
got a
the
rack
camera.
on the back of his 4-wheeler where you can see this, tine sticking out of. And I get that. I do understand that. But, you're up there at 4:30 and it's dark at 5:30. There's little chance he's going to come through in that hour before dark.
Well, I wanted to see if he had already been up there.
Yeah.
I mean, because that was
And-
something he did get in earlier than us last year, and
he was in during season. I think.
Yeah, it was during season. He was already picking up antlers.
All right, well, and that's a great transition because we talked about last year. We shed hunted earlier. This gentleman was finding dropped antlers before bow season was over.
It was that ice storm.
That's what I wanted to talk about next is the timing. The reasons that they drop, when they drop. Last year, I felt like they dropped earlier because we had that snow and ice storm and extreme cold right after New Year's. And they dropped in the first part of January. This year, we didn't have that until later. So I think they dropped later this year than they did the previous year, at least in the areas that we hunt.
Well, that's a couple seasons ago when we still had Baby Droop, God rest his soul. Or not Baby Droop, B Droop. He was a 3-year-old this year. And it was first, maybe even second week of April. And my buddy of mine that hunts a half mile away sends me this picture of this buck, this great buck. And he's like, he sends in all caps. He goes, "Why won't you drop your antlers? It's April."
Literally mid-April, he still had both sides.
Both sides. And at the time, I was like, man, that's a good deer. I look at him like, holy smokes, that's him.
Yeah.
Because we spent
we looked for those antlers hours, miles.
Winter. I mean, all over the place. It's hard to find them when they're still on their head.
Yeah. It's hard to catch up. Hard to catch up to them when they're moving.
I'm
all
like,
the time.
holy cow! But it was because I think it's because it was a warm winter.
Yep.
We didn't have anything that would make them stress.
The stress is the biggest thing. Because we said when the big snowstorm was coming in, it was going to plunge below zero. We're like, sweet, here we go. They're going to be dropping. And that's when they started dropping. Last year, it was earlier in January. This year, it was later in January. That year, we didn't have that
We didn't have anything.
Below zero
Just,
snowstorm.
No.
So the stress and the nutrition are two of the biggest reasons that they drop. But the ultimate reason that they drop is because as the days become longer, their testosterone becomes less, and as their testosterone becomes less, then the antlers fall off.
There's things I've read, and it's like it depends on how hard the buck ruts because it all depends on
how run down they are. Yeah,
the run down.
Johnny Boy was ran.
Yeah,
winter sickness, stuff like that. But I've also read like there's a belief out there where some deer, no matter what the weather conditions is or stress conditions, they drop at a certain time of year just because of genetics. And I wonder if that's like a thing, because that'd be kind of cool. It's like,
if you could track it.
Yeah, well, yeah. And we never could because we don't have the stuff for it. But it's like, if that's a thing, that's crazy to think about.
Well, and another thing that I have read and I've never seen is there are a lot of claims and by people much smarter than me. So I'm positive that it's probably accurate.
You're the least intelligent one at this table.
Just the luckiest.
And I'm just gonna grab any random one down here.
Yeah.
No,
Sure.
I'm gonna grab the biggest
one.
No, the pedicle, and I don't know if you guys have seen this.
Yes.
The pedicle,
Yes.
if it's farther out,
Yes.
they're healthier. If it is flush, they're less healthy. If it is indented, they're in a pretty bad place.
See,
I've never seen one that has that pedicle that is really, I mean, I've seen some in pictures and video that are a half inch or an inch outside the antler part.
And I was thinking what you're going with was like if they're like the pedicle, like part of the pedicle is kind of spiked out and like down, they forced it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, where they kind of broke it off.
If it's flush, it would just kind of happen.
All right, and that goes to the next thing. Okay, we're talking about when they drop, what causes them to drop.
Every time.
Oh, I find big enough sheds I can't hit my mic.
Okay, if you're carrying this around on your head, and I will tell you this, this shed again is from this deer, and the taxidermist that mounted that deer had 30 some years of experience, and he told me that rack and skull plate was the heaviest he ever mounted. It weighed 13 pounds. The rack and the skull plate weighed 13 pounds.
Well, if you look at the mass up there, I can see why.
Heavy mass. Yeah. 189 inches, a lot of mass, thick, second main beam. But if you drop one side, if you're carrying 13 pounds around on your head and you drop off 6 or 7 of them, I hate you guys. You spend way too much time in schools. So if you've got 13 pounds, you drop half of that, and you've got that rest on that other side. Oh, you want that up there? You want it off. That's right. You're shaking that thing off. You're breaking that off, and that's where you get that part that you're talking about. And that's why, and it hasn't always worked this way. We found good sheds that you're like, that other side's got to be here within 50, 100 yards, because the logic is those bigger deer with the bigger racks, when they lose one side, they want that other side off as fast as possible.
And that's what it takes me back to whenever you found Antius's one side last year.
We knew it had to be there.
We stopped. We had an idea of where we wanted to cover, and when we found that one, it turned into, okay, where's that other side at? And we looked absolutely everywhere around where we found that one side and never found it. So,
but that's the thing about shed hunting. We were in an area that was so thick, you literally could have walked right past it. Okay. And it makes sense that it had to be there, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to find it either.
Yeah, it's not going to be 3 yards away in a bed.
Yep. And sometimes that happens, which brings us, in the intro, I talked about sometimes you have surprises. Last Sunday, we went out to an area, and we talked about this in episode number 3, where going into the year, we had a hit lister named Tall Boy that we really liked, that we were excited to hunt. And then he broke off half of one side of his rack, and he kind of got a pass for the rest of the year, and we didn't hunt the property that much. We ran cameras in there, but we never got anything more than, decent 3-year-olds. So we went in there Sunday, all 3 of us, walking that area, didn't have real high hopes. We were, looking for, we thought maybe some 2 or 3-year-olds. And if you follow us on social media, you might have seen this already. I'm walking through. I've got the camera kind of, showing where we are. And I hear these guys yelling from about 50 yards away. And this is what they found.
If you want to
really need to swap.
Yeah, you need to switch those. We have no idea who this deer is. We hunted this area. We ran trail cameras in this area for probably 10 months.
In different spots.
We had a camera in there all summer within 75 yards of where you found them. You had a camera for probably a month or 2 within 15 yards of where we found him, and we've never seen this deer. And we measured him, and he's 140, he's close to 150, huge mass on him. I love this side. He broke the third point off here. We nicknamed him Diablo because of the pitchforks. But what a cool buck. Had no idea that deer existed.
Well, that's the funniest thing about it was, literally not even 5 minutes prior to that, me and him were walking the same trail. You were off doing whatever you were doing, eating honeysuckle, something like that. And I told Jamie, I was like, we love getting out and just walking anyway, especially when it
was a nice day.
Well, when all 3 of us are out there.
Yep.
We don't get to do that a whole lot anymore. And I was like, we'll probably find a 2 or 3-year-old sheds, maybe broken up Tall Boy, whatever.
Yeah,
it'd be good.
Find some beer can bases,
yeah,
because that's about all that was left.
Yeah.
And if we find something cool, there wasn't a whole lot there at that property that we were technically after. And 2 to 3 minutes later, I look to my right and I go, boom. I said, there's one. And I get closer and I see.
I love that rack.
I see this G2 and I go, who in the hell is this?
I said some other things.
Yeah. All the bleeps were him, not me. Anyway, I ran up there and I just saw that G2. I had absolutely zero idea this guy was 2 yards away because I was so tunnel visioned on that
which
side.
Thank God he was, because I was
then
looking
you
for the
spotted
other.
that
I
one,
was looking for the other side, going, "Please be here, please."
Yeah, they
be
were
here.
3 or 4 yards apart in a bed.
Yeah, and he made sure he knew. He's like, "Oh, I get the right one, you get the left one,"
Absolutely.
And but we got up to him, and me and Jamie are waiting on him to get over there, and we're like, who in the world is this? And it's just crazy because we didn't see him in the summer that we know of. We didn't get him on camera ever. We never saw him from the stand. And suddenly he decides to shed right where we've been all year long. So we're hoping that he makes an appearance next year, and hopefully he's not done growing. I wonder what he could turn into. But
with that mass, he's 4 or 5 here. So I don't know if, he might get into the 150s, maybe touch 160, but that's probably his top end based on the mass, at least in my mind. But what a great deer, and what great character with those G2s that have the pitchforks on them.
Well, and then something, once we figured out that busted up rack throughout the year was Tall Boy, we always wondered, we were like, who in the world would have busted him up?
He would have gotten in a fight with the bust, because he's heavy.
Well, he was the mature one of the area. Like
this may be him.
It could very well, they got into
because
it.
Because Tall Boy is a longer main beams, longer tines, but similar mass to that one.
Yeah. And we were like, what in the world would have
busted
happened?
him up?
A car?
Well, and that's we talked about that. Maybe he got hit.
Yeah.
But you never know what you're gonna come across.
So now, the real find of that day was this.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh well, and this goes to show you never know where you're gonna find them. You found that one where?
In the guy's yard.
in the yard, and that looks like last year's shed.
You would think, but I would
like that.
I mean, there's just no way, though, right?
Unless a squirrel or something carried it up there.
And we were just talking about forcing an antler off.
Yeah.
If you look at this one,
it's
going to be kind of hard to see for you guys, but it is jagged and ugly at the bottom.
And you saw that from 125, 150 yards away in the yard.
He didn't have his binoculars with him. He said, "Hey, Jaden, check that out over there in that yard. Make sure it's not a shed." And I put it up, and I couldn't tell anything. I was like,
and he starts walking over there, and then just hands go up. I'm like, are you kidding me? In the yard?
It is the ugliest little shed.
Yep.
I wouldn't say little.
It's not little,
but
it is the largest 3-point sight I've ever seen. Because
I'll show you the largest shed I've ever.
I mean, this is the pedicle.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get to your pride and joy before we end.
Like, this is the pedicle, so this is how it's sitting on the head.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just disgusting.
That's an ugly deer.
This is either a drop tine, or he goes straight up in the air and makes a circle. Either way, I love this thing.
That's definitely unique. So we are not done with shed seating. I'm going to get into baseball at SIU pretty soon, but I want to go out more. I know you're going to go out more. You're probably going to be on the side-by-side.
We're going out tomorrow?
Yeah, I think we'll go out tomorrow.
Very nice.
It's going to be cold. But we're looking for...
The ghost.
Well, the ghost. The other side of Jonathan.
Baby Droop.
The
Big 9.
The Big 9, Tall
Alamo.
Boy, Alamo. So we've got a lot of deer that we're looking for.
Antius.
It usually, I'm not holding my breath. It usually doesn't work out, but sometimes it does. Sometimes you find that deer that you're looking for.
You can't wait. We're almost
Dear
done.
Lord, like 3 minutes. Sometimes we find those that we're after, and up until this year, that was a pretty good pattern, because I found the Phantom, and then I killed him the next year. I found the Freak, and then I killed him the next year. Jamie found Vader, and I killed him the next year.
I killed him the next year.
I was saying, up until this year, that had worked out. Last year, I found Antius, and this year broke that streak. Because when we found this, Jamie goes, well, his fate is sealed. And it just didn't work out. So you just never know. Well, but we want to find those deer that we could, because, again...
It's hard to kill a deer when he's only around you for 3 days of the season.
And this is one of those cases that we thought Antius was bigger than this on the hoof. Mm-hmm. And when we laid our hands on him, he's a good deer. It's very unique. This is his smaller side, but he was smaller than we expected. Some of them are bigger than you expect. You just, until you have it in your hand, you don't know.
I would say going into this year compared to last year, he put on a maximum of 5 inches.
Yeah, he wasn't much bigger.
No.
So there are some that we're looking for, and hopefully we find them. You said tunnel vision when you saw this one, didn't see that one. The first shed that we found this year, I was videoing it. I saw it in a bedding area from about 30 or 40 yards away. And I went and I picked it up. I'm like, yeah, first one, baby. And I keep moving on. And then you call me and you're like, I found one. And I said, where are you? You told me. So I headed your direction. Literally stepped over this one to find mine. It was buried in some grass.
Yeah, it's an old shed.
But the crazy thing is, the video that I took of me finding my first one, you can see this shed. Well, you can see it as I walk over the top of it.
That's another thing is with this one. I'll just leave this one up here for now. I had to go look back at my videos and find the very first shed I ever found so I can go get it for this. And it was funny because I didn't realize this. In the video, I think it's this one. In the video that I took of my very first shed ever that started the addiction, my very first shed I found, I'm pretty sure in the background you can see a second one that I had zero idea was there until after the video. Yeah.
Really?
I'm pretty sure it's this one, and then that one that was in the video is in my room. But
and I apologize, James set Jonathan over there. Okay,
but
is that this year?
No, this is the very first shit I ever
rid
found.
of that one.
Sorry.
Well, these are all this year.
Well, almost. Way to forget one, bud. Thanks.
Well, okay, but so these are all this year's finds, and that's not all of them. We found some others. I don't think anything I've found is up there.
Because you haven't found anything.
That is not true. I found a couple of 2 and 3 year olds.
Useless.
I found the biggest deadhead we found, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we want to end with this, okay? And you know, finding this is awesome. Love it. Finding Jonathan is awesome. I love it. I love those big hammers, okay? But it's a lot harder to find a couple that Jaden have found this year. I've never found any like this. These are his pride and joy sheds, and this is what we're going to end this episode on. Show us the 2 that you have found this year.
Well, it's not a match. It is a left and a right, but it's from 2 separate properties miles away. But this one was the first one I found, and I was just walking like this bigger fence row, basically.
Yeah.
You know, it's not really a woods, and I'm not even sure how I saw it because a leaf was covering half of it. I saw just the end of this.
No, you're talking about 2 inches of antler in the woods.
And I was just like, is that a shed? No way. And I picked it up, and I'm like, well, that's the first. I've never found a spike.
Yeah.
Well,
that's awesome.
Probably a couple days later, me and you went out and walking a bedding area, which I don't know what's more impressive, finding it in the woods or finding it in a bedding area where it's thicker than snot. But I was walking and I saw it laying there, and I'm like, what in the world? And I picked it up, and I was like, there ain't no way.
Looks like a crawdad.
That's why I was getting ready. I literally was going to say that is no bigger than a crawdad claw that you'd find in a ditch. That is way more impressive than finding any of these on the table.
But that's what I'm saying is I can find these.
But Jamie and I find these.
But
that's
you
not
find
true.
all those.
You found the biggest one on the table so far.
Okay, but when you put all the miles in for the years I've done it, it is what it is. But
it's so small he can't even hold on to it.
No,
He's
used to that. It's just, this thing is ugly. I mean, it's got a hole in it.
We've got
hole in
big,
the horn
we've got Big Ugly. Yeah, where is Big Ugly? We don't even have him up here, do we?
Oh yeah. You've got your
that's
biggest
another-
shed and your smallest shed. in
Yeah,
your
they're
hands.
both ugly.
I mean, this you can find this one pretty easily, but I just don't understand how I can find things like this, and once in a blue moon I'll find an antler like that.
It's got pencil bases.
This is, I mean,
It looks like an expo marker at the bottom.
where I found this thing, you would have never it's insane.
I mean, I think, fellas, look at the table. That's 2 weekends. I think that's a pretty good start to shed season for us.
It's a pretty good start.
Yeah. And we know that some deer are still holding their antlers, so we got a lot of miles still left to go. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode on shed hunting, where, we walk miles, we argue about whose antler it is, we argue about how you might have come about finding it. Jaden and I come home with muddy boots. Jamie comes home with a muddy side-by-side, but usually we don't come home at least completely empty-handed. When you find one, man, there's nothing like it. It is an adrenaline rush.
White
It is
gold.
so much fun. That's right. Suddenly you forget about the sore legs, the mud, the briars in your arms and your thighs that you're going to pick out for a few days.
You don't forget the ticks, though.
Well, hopefully, we've not gotten there
What
yet.
I've always done is whenever I come home with ticks, I'm usually done.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I've seen some guys on social media that have already started finding some ticks with some of these 70-degree days that we've had. But when you come home with some antlers, you forget about the fact that you really just spent 3 or 4 hours staring at sticks on the ground. And that's what most of shed hunting is.
Oh, look at that one. That one's a good one.
No, it's not. That's a corn stalk. That's a root. That's a limb. More often than not, that's what you get. But we hope that this inspires you to get out there, stretch your legs, maybe find one that's been hiding from you all winter, maybe find one you never even knew existed. But if you don't find any, you can just say, I was just scouting. And you're going to learn a lot about the
You're going to
woods.
find things, even if you don't find an antler, you're going to understand things more about your woods.
Absolutely. So thank you for joining us for this episode of OSNG. For Jaden, for Jamie, I'm Clark. We're Old School Next Generation. We'll see you next time.